Hallo und willkommen zurück zu The Forgotten City mit eurer Eule. Wir haben immer noch ein paar Mysterien zu lösen. Und da fangen wir an. Deshalb meinte er, dass hier zu viel Gold rumliegt, wegen der goldenen Statuen. Oh je, die haben versucht, sich zu verstecken. Eine Einkaufsliste. Stimmt, das sind tatsächlich Statuen, die reden. Eine Liste der Dinge, die Decius kaufen will, sobald er entkommen ist. Eine Villa auf dem Aventin. Mutig. Zweispänniger Streitwagen. Sitz im Senat. Ich finde es bedenklich, dass der als Einkaufsliste drin steht. Vierspänniger Streitwagen, falls der zweispännige mal nicht reicht. Villa an der Bucht von Neapel. Zweispänniger Streitwagen. Schon wieder? Ach, 10-spänniger. Ich kann nur nicht lesen. 12 Sklavinnen, blass und mollig. Reizender Typ. Die kann aber halten, die will ich nicht. Truhe ist verschlossen. Ich möchte die auch nicht aufbrechen. Gut, wir haben genug in seinen Sachen gestöbert. Was ist denn das? Lararium. Ein kleiner Hausschrein, in dem die Römer täglich zum Schutz gebetet haben. Ah. Was mit den Hausgöttern zu tun, die sie hatten? So. Wenn ich es untersuche, kann ich es wieder zurückstellen. Nur ein Weg, das rauszufinden. Eine Flasche mit...
Hey, Virgil, how much would you want to make me a bow?
For the last time, Decius, I'm not making you a bow.
But why?
You know why.
But how am I going to defend myself against someone else with a weapon?
There are no other weapons in the city. We all went along with the magistrate's weapons ban, so it wouldn't be an issue.
Ich hatte gerade kurz Angst, dass jetzt was Schlimmes passiert, weil die beiden angefangen haben zu streiten. Aber nein, er will nur seinen Bogen haben. Eine Flasche mit Silphiumharz, einem ausgesprochen wertvollen antiken römischen Heilmittel, mit dem diverse Leiden behandelt werden können. Ich möchte es zurückstellen. Ich möchte nämlich nicht so aussehen. Auch eure Hilfe. Haben wir uns verlaufen?
Sometimes I stare at the great temple on the bluff, and I think, whatever is in there, it has to be important.
Wow, hast du einen deutschen Akzent? Virgil.
Ah, a new face. Salve, and welcome to our little community. My name's impossible to pronounce for most people, so you can just call me Virgil. You arrived on a sad day, friend. What with Julia's death? I wish we could have met under better circumstances.
Aha. Wer seid ihr?
Well, I'm an architect. Or at least I was back in Rome. That's probably too grandiose a term to describe what I do here. Help out with repairs and try to stop old buildings from collapsing on people. That kind of thing. But you probably don't want to hear about the ingenious architecture or mysterious history of this place.
Schon? Ich möchte was über die Geschichte hören.
Oh, I'm glad you asked. Some of these shrines were constructed hundreds of years ago, which means Romans have been arriving here for at least that long. But there's one thing that puzzles me. The oldest shrine in this avenue isn't Roman at all. It's Greek.
Griechisch. Ist es nicht üblich, dass die Römer griechische Kunst und Architektur nachbilden?
Well, yes, that could be the reason. Or it could mean that there were Greeks living and worshipping here before the Romans arrived. Which begs the interesting question, who really built this place? And could it be far older than any of us imagine? If only there was a way we could talk to the people who came here before us. The stories they could tell.
Naja, am Anfang wurden zumindest die Flüche von Midas und Medusa erwähnt, die beide in die griechische Mythologie gehören. Aber das ist bis jetzt auch die einzige griechische Referenz, die wir gefunden haben. So. Architektur.
Gladly. Personally, my favorite thing about this place is the aqueducts. Those series of adjoining arches. They're an ingenious feat of Roman engineering with a very practical purpose. They take fresh water coming from outside the city and distribute it all across the chasm. It's funneled below the palace and into a cistern beneath the great temple. Some of it flows down into another cistern beneath the villas. And the rest is funneled to the shrine of Proserpina, where it fills the lake and allows us to fish and farm.
Und sie Wasser in die Stadt bringen könnten. Wenn sie Wasser in die Stadt bringen, könnten wir sie zur Flucht nutzen?
Hey, not so loud. Just talking about that could anger the gods for all we know. I'm not saying it's impossible. But you'd have to find a way inside somehow. Just, please, try to be a bit more discreet about it.
Meint ihr nicht, dass die Götter das... Also es sind Götter, die hören das schon irgendwie? Andererseits ist das römische Götterbild, glaube ich, sehr viel greifbarer. Was hat es eigentlich mit dem Tempel auf der Klippe auf sich?
You mean the Great Temple? This one's a bit of a mystery. Given the way it's positioned so prominently, looking down on us, it's clear that whoever built it felt it was the most important temple in the city. Unfortunately, someone else went out of their way to keep its purpose a mystery. You see, usually a temple is dedicated to a particular god, like Proserpina or Diana or Apollo. Usually, that god is obvious. But in this case, it's unknown. There's an obelisk out the front, which probably used to bear the name of this unknown god. But it appears some barbarian defaced it. And of course we can't get inside because it's locked up tighter than the Temple of Saturn in Rome. And that contains the treasury. So we're all left wondering, which god is that temple dedicated to? And could it be the one responsible for the Golden Rule? Unless somebody figures out a way inside, I suppose we'll never know.
Na gut, reden wir über was anderes.
Of course.
Aber das war sehr interessant. Kriegst du jetzt wieder... Also, bist du beunruhigt, wenn ich da weiter nachfrage?
You wouldn't believe how often the new ones ask that question. But I'd tell you the same thing I tell everyone else. There are much worse places to live out your days. You might have a few sleepless nights thinking about the Golden Rule, but once you get used to the fear, knowing that a single slip-up could cost you everything, it's not too bad. Nothing new to me, anyway.
Was meinst du damit?
Oh, I just mean I grew up in the Batavi tribe, far to the north in Noviomagus, and learned to expect a bit of hostility. They weren't nearly as tolerant as the Romans.
Interessant. Was haltet ihr von der goldenen Regel?
Some people say it's divine, the work of a god, but I'm not so sure. It just seems so flawed to me. Like it's distinctly human. I mean, once you've been here long enough, you'll notice people doing things that just seem so wrong to you. But this so-called god doesn't seem to care, which means one of two things. Either you don't know the difference between right and wrong, or this unknown god doesn't. And I'm pretty sure I know the difference. Do you?
Bin mir nicht sicher.
Fair enough.
Ist Piti aufgefallen, warum hält man euch für einen Sünder?
Look, I haven't done anything wrong, if that's what you're thinking. Somebody just has a problem with my preference for male company.
Ah,
Hey, nothing gets by you, huh? Sorry, that was mean. Yes, I like men. And when you grow up in the north, as I did, in the city of Noviomagus, you expect a bit of hostility. The Batavi are not known for their tolerance. I saw enough friends killed or driven away to know the cost of not keeping your personal affairs to yourself. So I hid who I was for, what was it, nearly 10 years? Watching what I said and where I looked. But that kind of fear eats away at you slowly until living isn't any better than the thing you were afraid of. Needless to say, since I'm now living underground, halfway across the known world with an assumed name, my openness didn't go down well among the enlightened folk of the Batavi.
Das tut mir leid und ich kann verstehen, warum die Golden Rule dir weniger Angst macht.
Nice of you to say, but not necessary. In any case, the Romans are far more accepting, and among them, I get to be who I am. Or at least I thought that was the case. It seems I was wrong.
Ey, lass dich nicht ärgern. Irgendwer findet immer doof, was man macht. Wisst ihr, wer für das Graffiti verantwortlich ist?
It's not just graffiti. I have quite a collection of handwritten notes too. The strange thing is, I keep my personal affairs to myself. I've never really been interested in any of the men here. Not my type. So I'm not sure what I could have done to upset this person. If I had to guess, I'd say it's probably one of those cultists.
Es gibt hier Kultisten?
Strange bunch. They insist there's only one God, and that he considers my nature a sin. Can you believe that? If there are any of them here, they won't admit it. Not since they supposedly burnt down half of Rome last year and went into hiding. All I know is if these threats keep escalating, eventually my secret admirer is going to cross a line and break the golden rule.
Dem werde ich nachgehen.
What? Really? I didn't expect that. But thanks. It's always a pleasure to meet someone so selfless. I'm glad you arrived when you did. I'd start by figuring out who the cultists are. Or maybe ask around among the merchants here. Someone who lives or works in the forum must have seen something. But if you find them, please don't hurt or humiliate them. I suspect they're just confused.
Ich werde sehen, was ich tun kann. So. Katze. Gerade nicht. Ich meine, so selbstlos ist das Ganze gar nicht, weil hier ist so ziemlich jede Hilfe, die man jemandem gibt, auch für einen selbst, damit man weiß, dass die goldene Regel nicht gebrochen wird. Insofern, also ich hätte wohl auch so geholfen, aber ganz so selbstlos ist es dann doch nicht. Wem werdet ihr eure Stimme geben?
Well, Malleolus is talking about loosening some of the restrictions in this place. And while it's all a bit vague, at least he has a vision.
Ich weiß nicht. Malleolus hat irgendwie gesagt, alles soll besser werden, aber nichts Konkretes, sondern erst, wenn die Wahl da ist. Ich weiß nicht, irgendwie so leere Versprechen, beziehungsweise Versprechungen, bei denen man nicht weiß, wo es hingeht, finde ich ein bisschen bedenklich. Kann ich euch irgendwie umstimmen?
My vote isn't for sale, if that's what you're asking.
Nein. Ich sagte umstimmen, nicht kaufen. Ach, mach, was du willst.
Nice to talk to you.
So, wir haben jetzt einen Haufen Quests gesammelt. Und ich will immer noch nichts klauen. Also brauchen wir einen Plan, was wir jetzt tun. Oder wir reden mal mit dir.
Salutations.
Den kenne ich noch nicht. Hallo.
Greetings. I'm Georgius. It gladdens me to see another foreigner in our midst. We must stick together, you and I. And I must say, my sartorial friend, your clothing is most extraordinary. Leather boots in place of sandals, trousers with precise stitching, and such a curious design. I have traveled distant trade routes from the markets of Damascus to the farms of India, and never have I seen anyone dressed quite like you. Tell me, I must know, from which exotic part of the world do you hail?
Salve.
Meine Nation gibt es noch nicht. Ich komme von jenseits der euch bekannten Welt. Ihr würdet mir nicht glauben, wenn ich es das sagen würde. Das ist irgendwo wahr, aber auch nicht ganz so verwirrend wie das.
Then you are an explorer, like me. Wonderful. You must have many stories to share. I cannot wait to hear them. We will have much time here to get to know one another. But for now, do you require assistance? I know you do not require clothing, so information perhaps?
Informationen nehme ich immer gerne. Ich finde es übrigens großartig, dass die Leute alle Akzente haben, um so ein bisschen zu symbolisieren, aus wie vielen Nationen die Leute eigentlich nach Rom gekommen sind. Das ist schön. Was ist eure Geschichte?
My story? How kind of you to ask. I am a tailor and I run the humble shop in the forum.
Wie seid ihr hier gelandet?
A good question. A very good question indeed. And I would be happy to tell you if only I could remember it clearly myself.
Erzählt mir doch einfach, woran ihr euch erinnert.
I remember I had just been to Rome to sell an extraordinary selection of wares. And drowning in coin, I decided to celebrate my success. I rented a prestigious villa by the Tiber, invited over a few select friends, and we began making our way through some of the most exquisite wine money could buy. Quite a lot of it, in fact. Now, I have had visions and awoken in strange places before. I have even found myself naked in the desert sands more than once, but none of that compares to this. This time, I remember people screaming, then falling into a void as empty as time before creation, gasping for air, and then nothing. When I regained my faculties, I was lying naked by the banks of the Tiber, gods know how many miles from my villa.
Er ist also auch den Tiber runter.
Indeed. I'm lucky I was carrying a little extra weight. I believe it kept me afloat. In any case, it seems I'd been rescued and resuscitated by a benevolent stranger. I went to find firewood for his campfire, stumbled across a cave, and discovered that trapdoor temple. And here I am.
Warum habt ihr eine Schneiderei eröffnet?
You mean to say, with all the turmoil and terror of the Golden Rule, and so few customers, why bother setting shop at all?
Ja.
I'll tell you, it is precisely because of the Golden Rule that I wish to remind my friends of the importance of looking one's best. I say, the more of our customs we preserve down here, the more we can preserve a semblance of normality, the better our chances of keeping our heads. Don't you agree?
Kann auf jeden Fall nicht schaden.
Oh, and there is another reason too. If we all end up as golden statues for future generations to marvel at, I don't know about you, but I would like to look my best.
Salve, friend.
Anything you like.
Also scheinen alle irgendwie in den Tiber gefallen zu sein, aus verschiedenen Gründen. Und es scheinen auch mehrere während dieses Feuers hineingefallen zu sein. Also zeitlich scheint sich das Ganze zu überschneiden. Wisst ihr, wie man hier rauskommt?
Not so loud. What are you playing at?
Offenbar nicht. Na gut, tut mir leid.
Have you not been told about the last attempt?
Nicht genau.
Oh, then I suppose this duty falls to me. It is a long story.
Dann erzählt es mir.
Of course, the first question any of us asks when we first arrive is, how do I escape? It is only natural after all. And scaling the chasm wall is out of the question, for it is simply too steep and too far. But as they say, if the wind fails, use the oars. And here the second option is to leave the way we came in, through the shaft above the bathhouse. See, the shaft is quite high, but if one gathered up enough wood, one could make a series of ladders and climb one's way out.
Warum hat das noch keiner gemacht?
They have. I am getting to that. There was an attempt, made by resourceful fellows who lived here some years ago. They even decided to keep records of their escape attempt for posterity. Unfortunately, as soon as they began to carry the first ladder down the hallway, they heard a godlike voice shake the entire city, and that, tragically, is where their tale ends. So it seems that to merely attempt escape is to invite the wrath of whichever god oversees this place, and so I say it is best to not even discuss it aloud.
Okay, verstanden. Was haltet ihr von der goldenen Regel?
Ah, yes. The many shall suffer for the sins of the one. As a Greek, this is nothing new to me. It is how our gods operate.
Warum sagt ihr das?
Have you not heard the tale of the god Hades? He was the first to learn this dreadful lesson when he abducted Persephone and imprisoned her in the underworld. When Demeter, the mother of Persephone, learned of this, she did not punish Hades, the guilty one. Instead, she changed the climate of Earth so that it became hot and dry. Nothing grew. The grain turned to empty husks and the rivers dried up. Innocent people died by the tens of thousands until at last the other gods were forced to act lest they have no worshippers left. So yes, we know this rule. This has always been the case. The golden rule has merely brought it into focus.
Auch interessant. Was können wir dagegen tun?
If we are to survive, I say we must each heed the simple wisdom of Thales of Miletus, first of the 7 sages of Greece, who said, "Avoid doing what you would blame others for doing."
Das ist prinzipiell eine ganz gute Einstellung. Was sich auch so ein bisschen mit dem überschneidet, mit man tut etwas, was man selber für falsch hält.
It does, doesn't it? But it is not enough for us to do this alone. For even if 99% of us adopt this principle, that will never be enough. Sadly, no matter how well we protect ourselves, the life's work of many good people can be undone in the blink of an eye by a single selfish act.
Unter normalen Umständen ja, aber ich glaube, das hier trifft es.
Ah, the voice of experience. I am sorry for your loss, my friend. But on a lighter note, I will say one thing for the golden rule. For all their grim and haunting poses, these golden statues do make magnificent models for my clothing, do they not?
Okay, das ist positiver. Wem werdet ihr eure Stimme geben?
That, my friend, is quite the dilemma. But after some reflection, I'm leaning toward voting for Malleolus. I do not enjoy the thought of another visit from Domitius if I voted the wrong way.
Ah, ja, Domitius schüchtert die Leute ein. Kann ich euch irgendwie umstimmen?
Nothing comes to my mind, my friend.
Oh, in Ordnung. Habt ihr eine Ahnung, von wem Virgil bedroht wird?
This is troubling, is it not? I'm afraid I have no idea. It is ridiculous though. Virgil is a fine man. But my young friend Fabia confided in me that she saw someone leaving graffiti on his shop front last night. Perhaps you should ask her about it.
Gut,
I hope that our paths cross again soon, my friend.
dann müssen wir wohl Fabia fragen. Ich will das Silphium nicht klauen. Die kenne ich auch noch nicht. Na gut, ich glaube aber, bevor ich einfach weiter wahllos mit Leuten spreche, können wir mal gucken, was wir jetzt eigentlich an Quests gesammelt haben. Also, okay, das Zeitparadoxon bleibt immer noch. Und okay, die Hauptquest muss ich nicht jedes Mal durchgehen. Ich kann beliebige Leute verdächtigen. Aber bis jetzt habe ich keinen so richtig im Verdacht, dass er wirklich die Regeln brechen würde. So. Stiehl das Silphium-Harz aus Theseus Stall. Nein. Ich möchte nicht gleich mit Klauen anfangen. Wer weiß, was dann passiert. So. Julia kann ich nicht mehr nach Centilla befragen, also müssen wir gucken, ob wir vielleicht so auf weitere Spuren kommen. Weil Julia leider verstorben ist. Dann haben wir Nevia im Palast, die sich eingeschlossen hat. Vielleicht gibt es einen anderen Weg. Ein Bogen könnte nützlich werden, einen Bogen erhalten. Und ich muss irgendwie in die oberste Zisterne gelangen und Virgil hat Drohbriefe erhalten. Gut, da kann man gleich mehrere Leute nachfragen. Ich glaube, das ist die, wo wir am konkretesten was tun können, wo wir schon ein bisschen was rausgefunden haben und was nicht einfach nur irgendwo reingelangen ist. Damit kann man doch was machen. Aber ich glaube, das machen wir beim nächsten Mal. Und dann können wir auch gleich mit der Person hier vorne sprechen. Ich bedanke mich fürs Zuschauen und auf Wiedersehen.